you been watching What If? Are you caught up on that?
Yeah, of course.
All right. You know what I'm not caught up on? Lower Decks. Very upset.
I just haven't seen this week's episode, the 800th episode of Star Trek.
Yeah, so I haven't seen that. I did watch Titans though. I'm enjoying that.
I still haven't watched any Titans.
It's like I like it better. It's a step up from the CW shows. It's like if you've liked any of the CW shows, this is that, but adult. Like that's the best way I can think of to describe it.
Okay. I haven't liked their more serious ones, so
yeah. If they gave Smallville like more money, this is what it would be. Actually, no, not even Smallville. Well, yeah, if you added in like an R rating.
Zack Snyder loves R-rated Superman. Why not?
Why not? It actually in tone definitely feels more like something like Suicide Squad than any of the other movies. Maybe Harley Quinn. Yeah. So it might be more like Birds of Prey. That's probably the closest like tonally, like visually tone. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, hello and welcome to Breaking Geek Rated, the podcast, the premier and flagship podcast of LRM Online. I'm your host, Brandon Jones, and this week in the booth we got Nick Deasy. What's going on? What up? What up?
Not much. How you doing?
So we're going to talk about a couple of things. We're going to do some news, but in addition to some news, we're going to review Reminiscence. I don't know, whatever reason in my head I was struggling. I was thinking about the movie I saw last night. I saw Candyman last night.
So did you?
Yeah, so in my head I was like, are we reviewing Candyman? I was like, no, we're doing the other thing. So I'm stumbling over my words, but we have a little bit of news, and we're just going to jump right into the review. And so yeah, that's it. I'm actually going to probe your brain about this. I'm really curious how you feel about this since we're both caught up on What If. And we didn't talk about it last week. I'd like to know what you think about this. So Cam Clark, nobleman of LRM Online, has been on the show before. He had a very bold statement to say about this latest episode of What If. So the last What If was titled, What If the World Lost Its Mightiest Heroes? So Tony Stark, Thor, and Hulk were all killed at the outset of this episode, through the course of this episode, and it's left to Nick Fury and the rest of his team to kind of figure out what the deal was. And Cam said it is the best episode yet. I've got thoughts and feelings about that, but Nick, what do you think?
Somewhat. Maybe it was just Cam I saw who said that on Slacks. I thought somebody else said that too. Maybe it was even Kyle on our podcast. But
I'm looking at the written word, the thing that he has put out to the world.
Okay.
His stance. Those other people, they weren't brave enough to put it on the website. They just said it in Slack. That doesn't count. He published an article. Yeah.
I think Kyle agreed with him on our podcast. I still like the second one better.
What did they think is so great about this one?
I don't even know. Well, this one's definitely better than the first one, I think also.
Yeah.
Because the problem with the first one is it doesn't change up enough.
Right.
Whereas maybe they like it more because it's more traditional. So maybe they prefer the Avengers or something over the Guardians or even Black Panther. I'm not sure, but
okay.
It's because it's an interesting one. It changes stuff enough, but it's not quite the departure. It is a departure in the end, but really it's following Fury's one big week or whatever.
Right.
And at least the beginning, it's the beats of the movie. And it's like, it's a bunch of good actors coming back for it, including Ruffalo, who's kind of helped retcon that movie.
So weird.
Ruffalo was Hulk all along.
It was so weird watching him walk out of the locker that he was in. I was like, oh, wait, he wasn't in this movie.
But I saw his name in the opening credits, and I was like, well done. Like, well done. Getting Ruffalo, I think, was a big step, but just kind of like being like, look, it was always, if you haven't seen the movie in a while, don't even remember it. It was Ruffalo.
Just a mind wipe. Yeah, I definitely think that it was better than the first episode. And you said something that I think is true, right? Like you said, it was interesting. I think that you should walk away with all of these like, that was interesting. That should always be the thing. I think I walked away from the first one really enjoying the fight scenes, but thinking like just like you guys, they just crammed the Avenger or the first Avengers storyline into the first episode, and there isn't a lot of daylight between Peggy Carter and Steve Rogers, so the story was basically the same.
Yeah.
But T'Challa is nothing like Star Lord, like the other Star Lord. And in this, if the Avengers are dead, like you're already starting out with very different um, premises for your stories. So in that respect, I thought that these were definitely more interesting than the first. And like you, I agree. I think that the second one was a better episode. This was fun as a mystery, like a who
Yeah.
done it type thing. Did you
I
guess
agree.
the ending?
Not until Natasha was being tossed about. Because I'm like, invisible? And then I'm like, no, not invisible. Little.
I did not think anything about any kind of shrinking person, Ant-Man type or Yellow Jacket or Hank Pym until they were talking to Betty and she said there was like a projectile that came through here. I was like, maybe, but I definitely did not. I was not solidified in that. It just crossed my mind. So
I figured it was Loki at the beginning.
Hmm.
Because he would have been, I don't know how he would have poisoned. I mean, he can do all that stuff with his mysticism and stuff. Like he could cause Hawkeye to lose his grip. I mean, there's a
Right.
lightning bolt at the exact same time. Not that that's Hawkeye's power set. I mean, Loki's power set, but
Yeah.
I knew he was going to be in the episode based on the name. So I'm like, oh, he must be doing all this so that he'd be like, hey, no heroes. I'm coming to New York, y'all.
Which is funny because that's how it ended, right? And I
Yeah.
like that. I think that at least for me, Loki was kind of a misdirect. Like he shows up and you're like, oh, it was him all along. And then it's like, oh no, it wasn't him. Oh, but wait, he's still gonna take over the earth.
Yeah. It's not like he's going to leave after he
Yeah.
gets to take on Hank Pym.
Yeah. So that was interesting. Like I said, I'd still put it as number 2, and then
Yeah.
last week's episode is number 1. But
I really, really, really did like Michael Douglas as Hank Pym in this. I thought this was definitely the best voice actors of all the episodes.
so was that actually Michael Douglas? I did not
Yeah.
look at the credits.
It
He
was.
sounds a lot older than he has.
Interesting. Well, I felt it definitely fit because it's a crazy Hank Pym, basically. The Hank Pym that would slap his wife, like, back in the Yellow Jacket costume, just like crazed. His brain's probably being affected by Pym particles, like he warns, because he's probably loosey-goosey with it compared to when kind of drove Corey Stoll's character mad too when he shrunk, even though he was already evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I like the twist. I thought the voice work was super solid, except for basically everyone. Obviously you got Jeremy Renner and Chris Hemsworth and Phil Coulson. Well, I can't remember Phil Coulson's act. Clark Gregg and Nick Fury. I mean Samuel L. Jackson.
It's fine.
But even like in the trailer, I was really worried about the Iron Man guy, but he did great in this one.
Yeah.
He sounded almost perfect. I thought at first maybe they're actually using dialogue from Iron Man 2 and paying.
I'm a little surprised they didn't.
I think that would also require a bigger paycheck.
Maybe.
If they rip the audio, they would, because I'm sure they would have to pay something. Apparently, they think it's even cheaper not to.
That's insane.
Pay for that.
That it is cheaper to pay another human to do a job than to just be like, hey, we're going to use the thing that we've already recorded. Because think about that, right? You have studio time, you got somebody recording it, engineering it, then somebody actually saying the lines. All of that, all of those people and all of that time was still less expensive than saying like, hey, we're just going to reuse audio from, the previous movie. Because almost word for word, it was the same.
And you did a good job with it. Unlike the trailer, you're like, Stark's off. But this, you're like, oh.
It's crazy. Crazy economy we're living in.
And it is interesting that all these have been, in a way, they've been stories, but they all had cliffhangers. All 3 so far. And there is a big theory going around that I like, that based on the trailer, it looks like there's a shot of the new Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm almost thinking the last episode will be the new Avengers versus Loki.
Are you doing this on purpose? I swear you're doing this on purpose.
What? Oh, because you said it before too. That's right. Oh, it's a big, yeah. You already said that before even I said that. I'm an idiot. I don't remember. But it's getting stronger and stronger with the different setups they're doing at the end.
Yeah, it feels like they're building towards something, which is nice, because it adds more to the overall effect of the show rather than you just walking away from it with the overall feeling like, huh, that was interesting. It at least builds to something like, oh, that was cool. I mean, that's my scale, right? That was interesting. It's cool. Like, there's got to be something beyond that. I'll work on that. I'll work on the scale.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I'm sorry I keep stealing what you said because it's also a theory I buy into at this point.
It's all right. It's all right. It's fine.
The Hyundai commercial confirmed it. When I saw that, I retweeted it and I was like, what if Thor could drive a car? That's basically what that commercial is.
It's pretty awesome. Anything else to say about this show?
You mentioned fight scenes in a different one. I thought like the Black Widow fight scene was excellent, even though it's an animation. Like someone was like slowed it down.
Oh, in the truck?
About, like, yeah, the truck. Like, let's
Okay.
see how she lifts her leg here, doesn't drop it, kicks that guy, doesn't drop it, kicks the other guy,
Yeah.
then does the pose.
I like that they are taking the time to do things that they couldn't necessarily do in live action. I think you said that about the first episode, right?
Yeah, you couldn't do the first episode as live action and afford it. In fact, they did stuff that they couldn't do first Avenger.
Right. So I think that that's cool. They're taking the time to show us different things and different aspects. And that was a pretty funny line from who I assume was Crossbones, where he's like, I don't understand why Fury likes her. Like, yeah, she get hit hard, but it's only because you can't see it coming.
Then he hears the noises.
Yeah.
Shit.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Other favorite line from this episode was when Loki / Fury flipped over Hank's head. And he's like, you're pretty spry for a guy that has an office job. So, yeah.
I like also the the Nick Fury is just laughing as it morphs into Loki's. By that point, you figured it out, but just to hear that many Samuel L. Jackson laughs going at once.
Yeah. Yeah, that was good. I enjoyed that part.
Another interesting point about this one is the first one not to show the point that the path converged. Because it was Hope going into S.H.I.E.L.D. is what caused this path, whereas we saw Star-Lord instead of, not Star-Lord, T'Challa instead of Chris Pratt, whatever, getting picked up.
What is his real name?
Peter Quill.
That's right. Couldn't remember.
Took me a minute.
Yeah.
Another
struggling.
Hello, Peter.
Yeah.
just like in the Guardians 2 has that Hello, Peter moment, and the Hello, Peter moment came back this week.
It did come back this
in a
week.
different way.
Came back in a big way. In a big way, right? Like
bigger way.
we knew. We've all been talking about it. We've all assumed. We all saw it coming, and here we are, confirmed that maybe the Sinister Six. Do we call them the Sinister Six?
I'm thinking it's gotta be Sinister Six.
We have to assume that's going to be the Sinister Six.
Why else get that many villains in?
To harass Tom Holland's Spider-Man. So Marvel bringing the feels, bringing in the nostalgia, and bringing back Doc Ock from the Tobey Maguire films, Alfred Molina, and we heard Willem Dafoe's laughter as we saw
very Raimi Pumpkin Bomb.
Yeah. So it looks like it's building something. And the kind of interesting thing about this was, I think I had seen something where we were going to get this trailer in front of Shang-Chi, but it leaked. And so it seemed to force Marvel's hand where they're like, all right, here it is. You fucking
Well, it was supposed to be at CinemaCon only the same day. But yeah, I think the leak, and I think it still would have probably come out the week before Shang-Chi, like Monday before or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they can't hold on to it that long after they've shown it.
Right.
Then again, it's not like they're releasing all the Mission Impossible and other movies footage they showed. They showed all of Ghostbusters. It's not like they're releasing anything new to go with that.
Yeah, they showed a few things. I think they did like 9 minutes of the new James Bond movie as well. So, yeah. What'd you think of the trailer, Spider-Man?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. It's a nice mix. It's not like I knew they wouldn't just show everything. So it's a nice mix of, there's some Peter and MJ time on the roof, which is very Raimi-ish too. Like I think of them in the Spider Web and Spider-Man 3 when they're just looking up at the sky.
Yeah.
And then, he's in trouble. It's not like he gets rid of his identity or is running away. He's turned himself in like Superman, even though he could rip those handcuffs right off. He's like in court with hopefully Matthew Murdock's. People are like, that arm might be Matt Murdock's.
No, he wouldn't throw papers down in front of him like that.
I might throw it down in front of the other guy. The other guy's still in the room, like, look, this is how many times you saved the world.
This is all the evidence. Speaking of saving the world, it was really funny. They had another name moment, right? So from Infinity War, we had we're using the real names.
Yeah.
Fake names. And in this one, he goes, he called him sir. So, we've saved the world. You have to call me sir. He's like, well, Steven. He's like, yeah, you're right. That's weird. So
we'll go with it.
We'll roll with it. What did you think of Doctor Strange's sniffle gear, right? So he's in there with what appears to be a hoodie with the cape on and the Eye of Agamotto in front of, like, what was that? What'd you think?
The general consensus is that he just never repaired the ceiling. Because maybe we don't know how close to the snap, I guess this is. But other people are like, oh, he's wearing a coat and has a fire. He must be Mephisto. And I'm like, shut up. Kyle still thinks he'll show up by the end of Doctor Strange 2, but I'm like, no. We might get Mephisto someday. I guarantee we won't get him that early.
So here's the thing. So this story seems to hew very closely to One More Day, which is the very hated Spider-Man storyline where Peter Parker makes a deal after Civil War, and here we are after Civil War, to take back the reveal of his identity from the world. And he makes that deal with the devil, Mephisto, and he wants the love between him and MJ, and he does that to also bring back Aunt May.
Yeah.
Bring her back to life. So it seems like we're getting a version of that story here.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But what's funny is, okay, so the Doctor Strange scene where he's doing the spell, he's like, well, why can't this person remember and this person remember? And that it very clearly breaks into 3 rings. You're like, but at the same time, someone tweeted this today. It plays out that scene, like they showed the pictures. And then it's like, why don't you just tell them again, Peter? And then it has like the credit screen.
Movie ends.
It's not like if MJ still remembers them being friends and stuff, he can still be like, hey, like we've been dating or whatever. But guess what? I'm Spider-Man. But you don't know that because I had to. Maybe it should be. Nothing's too unbelievable to anyone who lives in an Avengers world. It's not like it's weird.
It is a frustrating thing. It is a very Spider-Man thing where he is kind of the architect of his own destruction, and he is very close in line with his mentor in that regard, right? So him and Tony Stark, very similar. So this is one where the answer is very simple. Just tell the truth, Peter. He's like, nah, I don't know about that. I don't think I'm going to be doing that.
And then you see the 3 rings. You're like, yes, the theories. I mean, we already knew. Kevin Feige himself announced Electro, like at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, that's the first sign. And then Alfred Molina I thought that was officially announced. Apparently it was only rumored that exact same week until he released his statement. And Willem Dafoe's basically been saying yes, because he just says, I can't talk about a project till it's out.
Right.
And it's like, oh, that could be a denial, but it sounds very much like, just like, wait and see, but yeah.
Yeah. And I think you said it in Slack that Wong looks like he is off to go fight maybe Abomination in Shang-Chi. We'll see. It'd be interesting if he took all of that shit to go to a fight, because he looked like he was just moving out. I'm out, leaving, gone.
I just like how he bails every time the world's in danger.
It's like, hey, don't do that thing.
I got a portal to go through.
Hey, don't do that thing. Told you not to do that thing. I gotta go.
Yeah, that seems. I know that's where Doctor Strange is at, but it's almost suspicious that our Doctor Strange would do that, because there are other theories was like maybe it's a dark Doctor Strange from the TV series, and I'm like, no, he's still he's kind of probably gonna be a cockier character than before because they lost Stark and they need to fill that void.
And like to that point, like he helped beat Thanos. Like I think it is very easy to forget where he started out in his own movies. Like he's a super arrogant guy. And while he might have been humbled and learned a bunch of stuff, he has now surpassed the power level he had before. And I think it's hard to forget that person and not be that person.
Yeah.
So he's basically drunk with power. That's the easiest way to say it.
Now here's the question. I mean, we could talk more about, like, we see the lizard. Someone actually really slowed down the footage and lit it up, and it does look a lot like the lizard. We see lightning bolts. We obviously already know what that is. They're a different color. So far, making good on his promise. And then there's a Sandman, I think. Pretty clear Sandman.
Really? I didn't see that. That's cool.
Which, it's fun. Alex Ross posted a picture, or not him himself, but his account.
Wait, so is that 5? So you said Sandman, Lizard, Electro, Doc Ock, Goblin. Who's 6?
I don't know.
Got a mystery villain out there. Maybe.
Yeah.
That'd be cool if they did. I want them to do Sinister 6. We'll see who they'll toss in there. And I will say this again, the least exciting thing to me about this movie is that it is a Spider-Man movie, or that it is a Tom Holland-led Spider-Man movie. I'm still more interested in everything going on around him. So like, so like Stephen Strange, or seeing all of the Sinister 6 come back, or even the old Spider-Man come back. So that's just me.
Yeah. What was I gonna say else about it?
Thinking. Clock's running.
I don't know.
Clock's running.
Clock's running. Oh, I think I got it all out.
Got it all out.
It was just really, good, cool to see Doc Ock.
Okay.
Damn. The hello Peter moment. Because the only ones who wouldn't be aware of because I was saying everyone in that universe, MCU, knows, like, every human being is like, there's weird shit. Like, there's magic, there's robots, there's giant purple monsters. But it'll actually be fresh for all the Spider-Man villains, just because they've only dealt with more realistic, like, down to earth, like, oh, I got turned into a lizard, or oh, I gassed myself and now I'm crazy.
Yeah,
or,
they're accustomed to being the freaks.
Yeah, so like, you going into the MCU, I don't think they would believe half the shit that's happened.
Like, slow down. I have to take a moment to adjust to this bullshit.
Especially, like,
what about this Hulk?
Where they're drawn from.
Yeah,
like Alfred Molina said that I doubt the footage is actually there, but that he gets yanked, like, right before he drowns or whatever. Right. So it's like, does Goblin get yanked? Maybe he's already earlier in his story because he's dead by the end of that film, or does death just not matter and they just all get?
Yeah, it might not be the same for all of them, right? So given that we're dealing with different timelines and all of this other stuff and multiverse, it doesn't necessarily have to be the same for all of them.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how they square that and what rules they come up for that, so they can break them later.
Mm-hmm.
You ready to move on to more Marvel news?
Always.
All right. So Black Panther 2, aka Black Panther Wakanda Forever. We've got a little bit of set news specifically coming out of MIT. So there are a set of 2 stories where we got to see Denai Guerrera, aka Okoye, and Letitia Wright, Shuri. They went to MIT, and the assumption was that they were going to see Riri Williams. And we also got a description from the Cosmic Circus, someone who saw the set, and they saw the actress playing Riri Williams, who is Dominique Thorne. So the description of that scene was, I was at MIT today while they were doing day shoots for Black Panther 2. Wanted to share what I saw. One scene we saw being filmed outside the Stratton Student Center was Riri Williams. She was on the phone. She was talking to a guy. It was a quick scene. She had a gray shirt on. The male student was taller, white male, wearing a dark red shirt. Extras acting like students walked around in the background. Riri's scene was just her talking to a guy. Then she walked away and pulled out her cell phone. Very short. That's it.
I know people want to, like, give every little detail they can about it, but, like, she was wearing a gray shirt.
That's right.
I'm sure that's plot heavy.
Hey, the other guy was a red shirt. That means he's gonna die.
Uh-oh.
Wait, wrong franchise. My bad.
I watched that trilogy with my roommate for the first time.
Which trilogy? The
Kelvin trilogy. He hadn't seen
timeline.
Any Star Trek.
Okay. What do you think?
He liked it.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll continue with any other Trek, but he was like,
favorite?
yeah, these are good. Beyond.
Yes. Fuck
That's
you,
my
Jammer.
favorite too. He liked Into
Yeah.
Darkness because he had no, like, I knew he'd like that one a lot because he doesn't have anything to get disappointed
Yeah.
by watching it because he doesn't know any of the. I had to like explain. I'm like, see it swap. Kirk dies instead of.
Yeah, I think if I
Nothing
didn't have
about
that
that.
baggage,
Yeah, I think
wouldn't.
without the baggage, it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an original movie without. If Wrath of Khan just didn't exist at all.
Yeah, which is why I think that is why, again, talking about this fucking movie, why I think the only change that would make me actually like that movie is if he was just someone different, because then I wouldn't walk in with that baggage. Yeah,
that's how I was hoping he would be.
Anybody, like pick somebody else, pick like a random Khan acolyte, move forward, because everything else about that movie is good.
Yeah, and I was super stoked when they had the Gary Mitchell episode of Lower Decks. I was actually, like, yes.
There's one more thing I don't like about that movie, and it's the scene with what is her name? Who's the doctor?
Alice Eve.
Yeah, it's like super weird and unnecessary.
Just when she's changing.
Yeah, like why are we doing this? But anyway,
my roommate was happy when that happened because he was like, throughout all movies we watch, he's always like, oh, she's so hot, depending which actress is in the movie. Like we watch because Bang Bang. Yeah, Michelle Monaghan is smoking, but it's like, God, she's so hot. So he got his glamour non-Star Trek-y shot of her in a bra. Anyway, gray shirts, red shirts, Wakanda Forever.
Red shirt, Wakanda Forever. It's coming at you at some point in the future. When is this movie coming out? I don't remember. Next year, I assume.
It must be if they're shooting.
Yeah,
it has a release date for now. It's just
we'll see.
Things are getting bleak again. Luckily, the Sony report they were pushing Venom was false, because that would have been like the first domino to fall.
Oh, I'm so sad that they're not gonna push.
I wish they
don't want to
delay it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Delay my pain because I know we'll probably watch it for the podcast. But
yeah.
Anyway, Wakanda Forever coming at you at some point. Hashtag recast T'Challa. I hope they do.
I think I do like that there seems to be, maybe they found a smart person and they're meeting that they're trying to recruit her from MIT or something. Because I wouldn't want Riri to be Wakandan just because it takes away from Shuri, who's supposed to be like the smartest person in the MC universe.
Yeah, I don't think that they would. I
like if she was also from Wakanda, it would. I don't care if they change the character. It's just like, well, then what's Shuri's job?
Yeah, I think I'd be surprised if they did that.
But. Yeah, that's why I bet she's an American because she's just a student. I mean, anyone could be going to MIT, but I think that's the fact that they're going to seek her out is what it looks like.
Well, I don't know if anybody could go to.
Well, I mean, like any race could go to MIT.
Any race could go to MIT.
Well, I'm not just saying any person could, but I'm like, I mean, or not just race, but like, you can be from Britain or from Wakanda.
Almost any gender as well. I don't know.
Any gender, let's probably. This movie proves women can go to MIT.
Yeah. I mean, but here's the thing. They wouldn't be playing basketball there because nobody watches women's basketball. Like, so unfortunately. Anyway. Now that we've established that any race can go to MIT.
I meant people from different countries.
Are you excited about the Matrix Resurrections? Now that we have an official title that we already have known for months?
No.
So in addition to getting a confirmation, an extra confirmation, like a double hit hard confirmation, because I think it was maybe about 5-6 months ago, we had, it had to have been longer ago than that. So there was a shoot that was happening in Europe and someone from the production was sent like a box that was like, hey, thanks for your work on the Matrix Resurrection. So we knew at that time that was probably 99.9% going to be the name, but Warner Brothers did us a solid and said, hey, just in case you weren't sure, be sure. But CinemaCon, during the presentation, Warner Brothers showed off a trailer for The Matrix 4. So here's the description that we received that came from Screen Rant. The new trailer opens in San Francisco with Neo now going by the name of Thomas and seemingly unaware of who he is. Neil Patrick Harris plays his therapist, and a brief scene of Neo as Thomas is shown in a therapy session. Neo says, I've had dreams that don't seem like dreams. And am I crazy? before he has flashbacks to events of the original trilogy. The trailer also expands on the initial footage of Trinity and Neo meeting, but this time they don't seem to know each other, even though they think they do. Trinity asks Neo as Thomas, "Have we met?" The trailer then shifts into a montage mode, and Neo observing day-to-day life in the Matrix's version of San Francisco. Finally, Mateen shows up, and he looks like a young Morpheus saying "time to fly," before offering Neo a red pill and a blue pill. Then another young woman with blue hair takes Neo through a mirror, showing him the Matrix. Another scene shows us Morpheus and Neo fighting before Neo breaks the dojo room with his powers. The trailer also shows that the machine pods are back, as are agents and the franchise's signature action. Trinity can be seen fighting police, officers, and agents at one point, even before the clip ends with Neo pulling his signature move, stopping bullets with his mind before he redirects at an entire missile at a helicopter. So that is the trailer description that we have gotten. Nick, you said you weren't excited. Are you excited now?
Less so.
Less so. Tell me why.
I don't know who wrote the article on LRM, but I read it and they were like, "Sounds a little familiar, doesn't it?"
That would also
"Yes,
be
it does."
that would also be Cam, who has a terrible opinion with regard to What If. But
That's true, but it just sounds like if they're gonna put them back in the Matrix and go through all the scenes of showing him escape the Matrix and doubt the Matrix and all that stuff again, I guess the twist would be what's up with young Morpheus. Like, why didn't Lawrence Fishburne get to come back?
oh, I don't know.
And I just feel like I didn't even like the first Avatar. I love the first Matrix. I feel like it's a franchise people really don't care about anymore. Maybe I'm wrong. Both of those, but I would put Matrix in this. Like, it's just like those were hits of the time, and now it's like, is anyone really looking for a Matrix 4? Like, I would almost wait a little bit longer and reboot it rather than doing a sequel that sounds like a soft reboot.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. Given the trailer description, I haven't heard anything that gets me excited about this, and I probably agree with you even more. Like hearing like Morpheus Jr. or young Morpheus makes me less excited for this kind of project. I would almost prefer if they had just done something completely different, but
Yeah,
I'm willing to wait and see what happens. But again, I think my biggest problem and the reason why I don't have a lot of faith is I cannot remember the last time the Wachowskis, either of them, did something that I was excited about. Like I tried to watch Sense8, I couldn't get into that. Speed Racer wasn't really my thing. Cloud Atlas, it's okay.
I hadn't even seen most of these. I saw Speed Racer. Strongly disagree with Jam.
About Speed Racer, oh yeah,
Yeah,
all day.
it's crazy.
And I'm trying to think what else, if anything, they've done that I can think of that I since then that I like, and I can't think of anything. So, essentially we've been kind of cruising for the last 20 years on the same project.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Now, if they had made a
Jupiter
version
Ascending.
starring Will Smith.
If they had made a version, so here is the real deal. Here's my opinion about this. If we had gotten a version with Will Smith, for whatever reason, it's funny because Will Smith seems to keep telling, I don't know if people are resurfacing the same footage or if he keeps telling the same story, because I feel like we've known for a while that the reason why he didn't do the movies because they did a terrible pitch.
Maybe he's not giving into that much detail, but he's always said it's a bad pitch.
Yeah.
The most recent thing is like, here's why it was bad.
Yeah. If he was Neo, Morpheus wouldn't be black. And so
They
like,
probably would have swapped.
yeah, they would have, I think it was going to be Val Kilmer.
Yeah,
So-
that's right. They said that, and I was like, I do like Val Kilmer, but
So
Morpheus is cooler.
I like what I got. I like Keanu Reeves as Morpheus, and as Neo, and I like Lawrence Fishburne as Morpheus. Like I don't think that it would have been value add to have those swapped, because there's no way this movie would have two black leads.
Yeah,
It's
but
not
I mean,
the way
but
it
like,
went down.
if this was just a different story and Will Smith's not even playing Neo, just like make up for it. Like, I'd love to do Matrix now. Like, that's why I wish it almost was like.
I feel like that'd be a better project.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just I know how much people hate handoff movies. I'd rather have a handoff movie than Neo re-waking up and experiencing everything again.
Yeah,
Like, I'd rather have with a new young actor who's like, what the fuck? Like, whoa.
Yeah, I
Put Boyd Holbrook in the role.
I mean, I think that the better project to me would have been like if they had actually gotten Will Smith to do the movie this time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm agreeing. I'm saying that would be cool.
Whatever.
Whatever.
We're gonna watch it for free on HBO Max. I'm sure we'll cover it and we won't spend a cent on it.
All of what you just said is true. You speak the true, as they say in Cloud Atlas.
Haven't seen it. Looked
Haven't
too
seen
weird.
it. But you watch Rick and Morty, right?
Yeah.
They did it.
Not all the way caught up though.
So the episode.
I remember the one they did because like they had the same like design, the weird. I don't know.
The facial tattoos.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what Jerry said he was like, "Oh, you speak the true." So that's the thing. That's the only thing I remember about that movie. But anyway,
it's the parody of it.
This is the parody of it. So, that's it. You got anything else to say about the Matrix? Please be good.
Sounds disappointing. Less excited, like I said, than before. I wasn't excited before.
I'm just gonna say, please be good. Hashtag thoughts and prayers. You know what's funny? I think the Wachowskis have produced movies that I like, but more recently than the Matrix, so like Ninja Assassin, even though it got destroyed on Rotten Tomatoes, which so I'll add is another one of my guilty pleasures. Ninja Assassin is a fantastic movie. I love it. And V for Vendetta are the two to come to mind where I'm like, the Wachowskis did not make these movies, but they produced them and they are just like, so good. Chef's kiss. Love them. Love them. Cool. Anyway, sorry if I kissed anybody in the audience. Anything else? Anything else before we move on to our review of Reminiscence?
Let's do it.
All right.
You and I are gonna argue.
Are we gonna argue? All right. So here's the thing. You said that before you even watched it. Like it sounded like
no, but that's what I was trying not to say it that way. Where I'm like, I think it might be good. I just have been putting it off because me and my roommate have been watching. We haven't watched anything that dark in like the 2 weeks he's lived here.
What do you
We're
mean
always
dark?
watching like
actually like film dark?
Well, I mean, but like no, but like this heavy. Like this, we watch movies like Star Trek and Sherlock Holmes and like Horrible Bosses 2 and stuff. This like felt like going into a Nolan movie, which is more heavy. In fact, it had way more similarities than I thought it would have with the two movies I compared it to, Inception and Minority Report. We said the name of the movie already. Oh, we'll introduce the movie and then we.
I did. That's it. That's
okay.
Okay. I'm gonna do the description. Here we go. Reminiscence, a private investigator of the mind, navigates the darkly alluring world of the past by helping his clients access lost memories. His life has changed as he uncovers a violent conspiracy while trying to solve the mystery behind a missing client. This film has a 5.9 on IMDb out of 10, and on Rotten Tomatoes, it has an abysmal 38% from the critics and I don't even know what it has from the audience, a 40% from the audience. I am shocked that people don't like this movie. And I read through some of the Rotten Tomatoes critics, and I won't name them or read them because the only conclusion I could come to is that these people are stupid. And so I'm not gonna like, it doesn't make any sense for me to read their names and like say that, but like, I know you don't like it. So let's jump into, let's try something different. I don't think we need a rule for this anymore. I think people know, what they do and what we should do and all this other stuff. We're just going to jump into spoilers. So Nick, I'm going to ask you, what didn't you like about it? And let's do that.
I was expecting to like it because of what you said. Like I said, I was just putting it off to the last night because I'm like, God, this looks heavy compared to the stuff we've been watching.
And when you say what I said, you mean how much I did like it?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. I was going in, I'm like, I mean, we don't always agree, obviously, but then like the other points, it's like when I was looking at you, I looked up the crew and everyone because you said like it was all about like they have strong actors, including two of the strongest from Westworld. It's written and directed by Lisa Joy, who co-created Westworld with her husband. Jonathan Nolan, and it just the pedigree's there. I love Rebecca Ferguson. Like she's always an actress I can trust, and everyone did a great job. I think we say that I thought it was incredibly slow. Maybe that's because it's trying to be a detective thing, but I wish I watched it over several nights, like one of the other movies we did, just because it was so slow.
Yeah, it's supposed like so.
I know it's supposed to be that way. That was my least favorite part. It was the pacing. The mystery is cool. I like that it got a lot better in the second hour, just because that's when it picked up. But it still just never hit me. That I enjoyed the twist, but it also like it seemed like most things like some of the things they revealed at the end was like, oh, he was told that like an hour ago in the film. Was that really a twist?
Which part?
What part was I thinking of? Oh, that she like, what was it? Because my roommate even said that. He's like, we already knew that. It was something we knew about her character. But I guess the actual twist is that she wasn't that terrible a person.
That he what? Oh, but you don't know.
I can't remember what it was. It's something that we learned about her character or the mom or something that were like, oh, we already knew that, but now maybe the characters didn't, which is why they made a bigger thing about it.
Maybe.
I can't remember the exact thing because obviously there are lots of plants. There are lots of good plants and payoff. Or my roommate likes to talk about Chekhov's gun.
Yeah.
Which is everything from the fish tank to like we see the eel tank. You're like, oh yeah, I know what's gonna happen with this later in the movie.
I think that was in the trailer, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure that shootout was in the trailer.
I have not seen the trailer, which is one of the reasons I was excited to go in cold. That's also exciting for me, but it looked dark just based on the title and with the few clips that like I've seen seconds of it. But I was excited to go in without knowing anything about it past the premise of memories.
So here's what I'll say about that. I've talked about this before in the podcast. I've developed a new practice, relatively new practice. At this point, it's not a new practice. It's just my practice. I will watch a movie trailer. I will never watch the whole movie trailer because inevitably they spoil some shit. And so really what I'm looking for is to get a feel for the movie. And so when I stopped watching this trailer about a minute in, I was like, all right, I know that this is like a detective noir story. Yeah. I like everybody involved. I'm just going to fucking watch it. Like there's no need for me to see any more of this. And so in terms of the pacing, it was exactly what I was expecting. I've heard reactions to this movie, everything from like, I really loved it to it was more confusing than Inception. And I was like, I don't really know. And these are people I know versus reading what the critics are saying. And
I didn't find it confusing at all. In fact, the one plant they drop of the lake house or whatever was one of the things I jumped to before the characters knew. I'm like, it's at that lake house that she showed very briefly. My roommate missed that part.
Which I think that's the thing that I like. So I'll talk about the things I did like, because I can't think of anything I didn't like about it. For me, when I tweeted about this movie, I described it as perfect sci-fi noir. Like this was a detective story with an overlay of sci-fi, and the things that they did to pay off the story, I really liked. So the story of Orpheus and her husband going to the underworld to go get her, like all of that discussion about, tell me a story. Okay, well, I'll tell you the story of I can never pronounce his name, but Orpheus. Orpheus gets taken down to Hades, and her husband goes to retrieve her from Hades, both the god of the underworld and the underworld itself. And he's telling her that story, and she's never heard the story before. And to your point about paying stuff off, I think before you hear him tell all of that story, or at least that part of the story, he talks about having to go to hell to go get her. And so those are things that I really liked about this movie, is that thematically it really paid off. I really love the way this movie looked. I love that they incorporated what the world could potentially look like in the future without really hitting you over the head with like, it's climate change. It's, all these terrible corporations. Yeah, it was just, I feel like really good sci-fi does that. Like with a couple of words and some visual cues, you're like, this is the world. And you have a pretty accurate construction of what this world was like. I loved Thandie Newton's character and her relationship with Hugh Jackman. Like they're like, hey boss, this dame is no good for you. You gotta like let this go. You know, this isn't gonna end up well for you. All of that, like it just did such a good job of harkening back to Maltese Falcon style Humphrey Bogart type stories. And I was here, like the only difference was the sci-fi elements and the fact that it wasn't in black and white. Other than that, I was so at home with this flick.
Yeah, I mean, as I was watching it, I even mentioned this to my roommate. I was like, first of all, he only watches movies with subtitles on, which I don't do it without him, but I have no problem doing. It does help you hear some lines in the background you wouldn't hear. But I was like to him, I was like, normally this much narration means a movie's sloppy and it's a crutch, but this is definitely a film noir. So I am really digging like the narration from Hugh Jackman. We actually went in. I said it was called Reminiscence or whatever, and I'm like, it's about starring Hugh Jackman. So when we started the movie, he thought it was. I'm obsessed with Marvel. He's like, oh, it must be X-Men Reminiscence. It took a few moments to figure out that when they called him Nick, he's like, Nick, no, his name is Logan.
Logan. That's pretty good.
No, I love the world building, just seeing it and talking about the people who were in internment camps that then got washed away when one of the levees failed or whatever, and how they have this new dam basically that's keeping them inside, but that's going to break eventually, and all the rich people are on their little rich people area. Then just mentioning of the war without describing it too much.
Right. Yeah.
I'd like to see a different story in the world.
It'd be kind of funny if this was actually like what part of Westworld's real world was like.
That would be cool.
Like if this just took place in Westworld's future.
With Dolores and not Dolores, the crazy chick. The one that was like Psycho in season 2. Well, May's the hero. The prostitute who's, I forgot her. She's big enough to have a name in the Matrix. I can't remember what it is.
Did you say in the Matrix? In the Matrix?
I mean,
in the Matrix? Oh man, they got
Westworld. Well, that definitely, knowing Westworld, I was also watching it, and here's one of the things I really liked about when I was watching it. I'm like, we never know when it's a memory or when it's not a memory.
Right.
Like at one point, I'm like, I will hate this movie if that's the twist, but this whole thing could be a memory.
It's all a twist, and I think that different from like an M. Night Shyamalan movie, I was not watching this movie like waiting and trying to figure out what the twist was. But what I did like that it did from a narrative perspective is exactly kind of what you're talking about, where that whole beginning, or at least a large chunk of it, is coming from his memory. And then he just wakes up and comes out of the tank, and she has to like wake him up out of the tank. And so you don't know when that memory began, like how much of what you're seeing was that memory. And that something about that from a storytelling perspective and a narrative perspective I liked, because I think the way the story works was it jumped forward in time. So what you were seeing in the beginning had happened like, months and months and months ago. It was
like, I'm not an addict. I never use it.
Yeah.
And that's what also reminded me about Inception, was that Cobb, Leonardo DiCaprio, and his wife were so obsessed with going inside the dream world, they lost themselves within it, which is something he warns about. And I like the idea of like, if he used the court term for it, if you lead the witness or whoever's in the thing and you're leading them into something that never happened, right, they like start freaking out. And I did like the repetition of his like, you're going back to, like, picture a memory, and how angry he is when he says it to the guy at the end, that he just reburns. Like, you're gonna feel that pain. He turns up to like 100 volts.
Yeah.
And it's a revenge thriller through and through once he figures out her shit.
Yeah, I think that. So to me, it still sticks very closely to those noir thriller stories. Like it's all about him having to solve a mystery so he can figure out, what happened to the woman that he loves. And for me, the wrap up, when because to me, part of the big question wasn't necessarily where was she or what was she doing. It was, did she actually love him?
Yeah.
And I think that was a better, not better, it was just as interesting as the main who's doing this and why story. And then when you find out, it was for me a gut punch. The whole idea of, again, taking it back to the story of Orpheus, he was, do you know this story?
I barely remember it. I've definitely heard it before back a long time ago.
Nick was telling her the story, Rebecca Ferguson, the story in the movie, and he played it like it had a happy ending. That's not what happens.
Does he actually look back?
He actually looks back.
Like it's turned to a pillar of salt or something.
She gets snatched back to the underworld.
Oh, and then he still makes it out, but
he was
too tempted to look back.
Yes, because
she was talking behind him.
He's talking to her. He's trying to get her to say something. He's like, "Hey, don't you remember that time we went to the beach?" Like, this is what he actually says, but I'm saying. And he's trying to coax her into basically proving that she is who he came to the underworld to get. And he starts to doubt it. And he's just like, hey, he's tricked me and all this other bullshit. And he gets upset. And so like right before they get to the end, he looks. And so just like that story that he's telling in the movie, he is in the past trying to find her, and he's looking in the wrong spot. And she's in reality right there. She's right there. And he refuses to go open the door. And then Hades comes and snatches and takes her back to the underworld, to the exact place where Nick said he had to go to get her. So it was in effect thematically the underworld.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they tied all of that shit together, fucking awesome.
You're convincing me to like it more, but I really don't want to rewatch it because it is so slow for like an hour. Like, and I know film noirs are, but I have a question for you actually.
What's up?
So is it supposed to be a puzzle that you figure out what takes place when? Because for a while I thought it was more like, I thought after him she went to New Orleans, but then it was before him she was in New Orleans, and I was confused until they put the timeline. Is that intentional, you think? Like a Westworld puzzle?
Yeah, I think that this movie has a lot of similar narrative hooks to Westworld. I mean, it comes from the same people, right? It has a lot of same actors, like you pointed out. And I just think that's their thing. Are you supposed to be able to know? I think it is intentional. I think it's an intentional misdirect, only for a couple of seconds.
Yeah, because then you figure it out.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I was trying to piece it together. I didn't know for sure until the bad guy was giving his speech to Nick.
I think it's supposed to be a shock, because I think you should know immediately that this is in the past, because the guy whose memory they're taking it from is right there. Right? He's in the tank.
That's true, but I didn't know how long she'd been gone. So yeah. I thought she went to New Orleans after.
Yeah.
She ditched him and then fell into drugs and stuff, until like you hear like Fanny Newman talking about that. Here's my memory. She told me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what did she want?
So I think it is supposed to be a misdirect, at least for a couple of seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And I like it, right? It gives you the flutters. It makes you feel like, oh, is that where she is? And then they bring you back to reality very quickly. Like, oh no, this is something that is old. So
I really love him when he watches the memory where she's talking to him, and then like he slips into the spot. So even though he can't feel her, it's like she's like telling him she loves him, and at first the other guy thinks he's talking to her, and then she like says Nick, and he's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that was so good.
Like planting clues in a memory of the other dude for Nick, and the final message.
Yeah, I love that scene. I don't think there's a lot that I could say about that scene other than I really liked it. So like she's having this conversation with Cliff Curtis, and he he's just all into it. And it goes back to that scene where there's a woman that looks like her, and he's trying to relive that moment, right? He's trying to have that moment again where she's talking about that she loves him, even though he knows that it wasn't real and it wasn't him that she was talking to. Like that's kind of fascinating to me.
Yeah, it seemed like it took him a while to catch on until she said Nick. He was like, what the fuck? Whereas like it should have been obvious. Yeah. But that's not something that bothers me.
Oh yeah, it doesn't bother me.
By the time
do
we're to
think it's
that, we're just in
interesting.
the full sci-fi. People would have died from that high, normal mumbo jumbo. My roommate always notices that. He's like, that person would have died. I'm like, dude, you're watching a Star Trek movie where Captain Kirk is like sliding down the Enterprise.
Did you call him Captain Jerk?
I did just then. Well, that's how I convinced him to watch Star Trek, as we watched Horrible Bosses 2. He was like, that guy has the bluest fucking eyes.
Yeah.
And just he's more of a villain in Horrible Bosses 2, but like Kirk is still, cocky, a little bit of a jerk. Like
it's funny. That's probably what
he's
they
just
call
up to
him
here in
engineering
Horrible
department.
Bosses 2. What?
That's probably what they call him in engineering. Fucking Captain Jerk. Warp 9 again. All right, fine. We'll get right on it. Jesus Christ. Bratty son of a bitch. I can't think of anything else to say about this movie. Like I do you know whether or not Jammer liked it?
I thought I saw something, but then you called me on. I was like, maybe it wasn't him, maybe it was someone else, because it probably was Twitter if it was him, or it could have been it could even be I also take I see opinions of like a lot of comic book people and like some directors like Scott Deckerson and even some smaller directors. Like I follow Ryan Johnson and all those guys. So sometimes someone like that will tweet it out. Even like a comic book artist will be like, that movie was fucking awesome,
Yeah. I still think the the biggest thing that I can say about this movie is that I am just shocked how much people did not like it. And I cannot. There are movies that I see that I like, and I can understand why people didn't like it. Aside from the pacing, I can't figure out what about this movie people didn't like, and maybe I'll have to read the reviews.
They all thought it was an X-Men movie, like my roommate.
Yeah,
X-Men Reminiscence, sweet.
I don't really want to read the reviews.
I don't. I never do. I do look at the percentage, but I very rarely let it. These days I don't look into the percentage until after, whenever we're doing a movie for this show, or But I used to look and let it determine movies for me, unless it was a comedy. Like, because the comedies I like are usually like 20% because there's raunchy Seth Rogen movies or whatever. But usually I trust them with superhero movies. But now I look afterwards. I would say I'm surprised the critic score isn't higher. And I definitely think the cinema score is accurate because I think people went in expecting more of an action movie since it's Hugh Jackman.
I am shocked that the scores are so close. They haven't been that close for stuff that we've reviewed in a very long time.
Usually they're close if it's like mid-level to mid-bad to mid-good. They're never close when it's like great, and then the audience is like fuck you.
Right. So I've got the Jammer review. He said he was mixed to positive. He loved the film noir tone and style. He loved a lot of the visuals. He thinks that the second half was stronger than the first, and it culminated in a satisfying way. It was a bit slow in the first half and took a bit long to get going. C+, B-, though he thinks it's a film he'd like more on rewatches, which actually also happened with the Suicide Squad. So I think he came away with
he barely raised it, but he did a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. It got a little bump.
I would say I'm not too far off from him. Technically I gave it a 2 out of 5, but I would still give it like a C or a C. I would give it a C- or a C. Okay. Like that doesn't actually match up with 2 out of 5 the way we always discuss it. But now that the Jammer's not here, I'll do it right. Say C-.
And I think for me, if you know what it is, I think you'd be fine. So I recommend it to anybody who likes noir thrillers and anything of that nature. I would give this a solid A, maybe even an A+. For me, I agree with Jammer in the culmination in a satisfying way. Like
Yeah.
it came together so well for me, and it did just a really good job of laying the tracks of where it was going. And I don't know, I'm probably definitely gonna watch it again within the next couple of weeks.
Before it leaves HBO Max on the 30th. Or no, after 30 days.
That's crazy. Just keep.
Then they come back like a month later. Like Wonder
Yeah.
Woman 84 is back up, and like
It's weird. It's a weird thing.
whatever the Jared Leto movie we watched is like back up.
Weird.
So
weird. The Little Things that
that's what
it
it was called.
The complete opposite of this movie.
I like Little Things more, but it's not a good movie.
Did you really? Holy
Yeah.
shit!
I like Little Things. I love serial killer movies, and they hit some of the right marks.
Holy moly!
And I love the twist.
What a
Little
bad
Things.
movie! What a bad
I wouldn't rewatch it either.
movie! Interesting. I'm so.
Nor would I
fascinated.
recommend it enough. Like, hey, we should sit down and watch this together. I wouldn't even recommend it really to anyone I know. Is like if you have nothing else to watch, this movie is harmless. That's what I would say about Little Things.
Yeah. Man.
Like my sister watched it, but she also didn't like it very much.
The little. Yeah. I think.
But
Jared
she's very
Leto's
into Seven and
performance-
stuff also.
Yeah, Jared Leto's performance is probably the standout thing about that movie, but the rest of it's just dog shit. So, but anyway, anything else to say about Reminiscence? Any of the news stories we talked about today, or just life in general? Anything? What you got?
They showed I didn't read a full description of it, even though I watch every piece of set news regarding Mission Impossible. Like they actually crashed the train the other week, and the footage is out there, and it's like that's impressive. Why didn't they use the CGI train? But this is awesome. But they said one of the main stunts they showed was the motorcycle ramp over off of Norway Mountain, Norwegian Mountain, and he did 5,000 parachute, and he did 13,000 bike jumps before they did the final take. But then my room was like 13,000 is impossible. I'm like, yeah, but that's what they're reporting. He's like, he's been training for a year, and he's like, that's an impossible number.
Yeah, I don't
Like he
think
did not the
that shit either.
full jump bike. He didn't jump off like that's why he had less parachutes than he did the bike. He did bike jumps, I guess, in his backyard.
No.
Rode his jet ski into his swimming pool.
No. Audience can't see it, but I'm giving you a big east-west. I don't fucking believe that shit either. No. I agree with your roommate. That's horseshit.
That's what people were told. I don't know. Part of Tom Cruise's legend, part of it is reality. But
Part of the
believe
legend, the map of the legend lives on. Lives on.
That's about all I got, I think.
That's all you got? All right. That's all I got as well. So, dear listener, if you like what you heard, do all the socials, like, rate, comment, subscribe, share. We definitely appreciate it. Also, LRM Online has other great programs for your listening pleasure. You can find those on lrmonline.com. Nick Dahl, where can you find?
I am at Geeky Nick Doll on Twitter. And I do Breaking Geek Radio, the podcast, and Marvel Multiverse Mayhem on Thursdays, which is, whatever Marvel show is that week. And we'll also do all the Spider-Mans before the new one, just since we know all villains are coming from each movie.
Woohoo, all the Spider-Mans.
Yeah, there's only one villain from each movie, at least. Yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, I mean, for
There
the
are
most
5
part, there was
movies.
only one. Yeah.
Yeah, or even like the Andrew Garfield ones, they obviously chose, they got Electro, but then they chose the Norman Green Goblin because he's the one people give a shit about.
Yeah. It's a good call. Good call.
And I wonder who the last will be.
I don't know. We should take some bets. We should legal.
I would have said
Gentleman's
Vulture, but he's in the Morbius trailer.
Yeah, and I guess I feel like in this movie they'd have at least from my opinion, they have a hard time figuring out a reason. I'm gonna have to think about that. I'll come back.
Maybe
to it next week.
Mysterio. Maybe he's alive.
Maybe he's alive.
Trickster. Or maybe just someone else using it's more Mysterio's more of an organization than a man in the movies.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good way to kind of wrap up part of that storyline, right? Like it's hard to murder somebody that never actually died.
Yeah. Or even like through the multiverse, he's just alive again.
Yeah.
I even got some kind of
that'd be a fun way to acquit Peter, right? Just show him
Mysterio's
from another,
back.
yeah. It's like he's not dead, he's right there. And it's actually Mysterio from another universe.
I still think that, I mean, he's just gonna erase everyone's memories. It's a lot easier than finding the sinister sticks and pulling up Mysterio and being like, look at this dude.
I don't want that. I don't like the return to status quo.
Yeah, and of course, as Kyle always says, we'll see if Sony takes their ball after this back. Meaning Spider-Man.
I don't think so. I think that they stand to make more money doing this than taking it away.
Here's what I would like to see. I know we just were into wrapping up the show, but I brought it back to this. I know we're probably pretty sure it was a mistake that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is on the wall in the Morbius trailer, but it would be cool if maybe they continued Tobey Maguire's story and he was the Spider-Man in Sony's Spider-Man universe, and then we could keep Tom Holland over at the MCU. And it feels like the best situation for Sony and Marvel.
Maybe. We'll see. I don't know what. So Tom Holland is the current hotness, and I don't know what Sony would gain by doing that other than having to spend a lot of money to get Tobey Maguire to come back.
There are lots of, I don't know. I hate Spider-Man Twitter. It's everyone hating on everyone else's favorite Spider-Man. Yeah. So I see a lot of pro Rami people, but I also see a lot of not pro Maguire people. I also see a lot of pro Andrew Garfield people. But
yeah, I think everybody's fine for their own thing. It's just Holland's at the bottom for me. So we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. We shall see. And you can find me right here on Breaking Geek Radio, the podcast, and tweeting at Sir Jonesy's, and also gramming that thing. Is that a verb? Gramming, as well as at Sir Jonesy's. Folks, as always, thanks for listening. We will catch you on the next one. Hasta la time.
Don't get any on ya. Mission accomplished.
Oh. The other thing I was going to say, I totally forgot about this. I really enjoyed Candyman. I thought that it was a really good homage to the first one. Like, it had a lot of good callbacks, but was also a good movie in its own right. So if you like scary movies, I highly recommend it.
Sounds good, audience. Bye. Just because I would watch Candyman, I just think it looks far too scary for me. Looks like old. I mean, like very different plots, but like plots that scare me. Just the premise looks scary. I didn't even watch the full trailer. The premise was terrifying. The Candyman trailer, I have seen all of them, and they are terrifying.
I mean, violence is pretty good. It's pretty like. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna watch Reminiscence again. So good. But first, Lower Decks.
Yeah. You haven't watched the last week's either, or you just haven't? I haven't watched yet.
When does it come out? When did the new episode?
Thursdays.
Yeah, so I've not watched. I did not watch
Thursdays.
yesterday.
Okay, yeah, me neither. But I'll be doing that today also.
Yeah,
I love it.
I'll do it right now. Right now.
Last week's episode was so good.
Did him out.
With Riker, the episode mostly about Riker ship.
That was good. About the Titan.
And the puppet.
I'm actually kind of excited. Like, I like that they are showing Titan stuff. Because there are two ships that I feel like got the short shrift in Star Trek. It is Enterprise E and the Titan. Definitely the Titan more. So
I do hope we see more Riker. Just put the 1 and 2.
Yeah.